What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Light and a Lamp podcast. I am here with Steve.
Hello.
And Tim.
It's your boy.
And I guess this is technically like the first regular season episode for the 2021 season. Season starts tonight, actually. It starts in a couple hours, so by the time you guys are seeing this, the NHL season will have officially started. And we're just going to be doing our standings predictions. So the way that if you guys haven't been keeping up, the way that the standings work this year is the top four teams in each division make the playoffs. And then you play within your division, so one plays 4, 2 plays 3. And then after, you just play based on seeding. So technically speaking, a team from the East can play a team from the Central in the Stanley Cup Finals. It all depends on how the seeding works. It's kind of weird this year. They're just doing it, obviously, for the purposes of reducing the amount of travel that these teams have to do. So just keep that in mind. Top 4 teams make the playoffs in each division. And I guess we'll just start with the West, the new quote-unquote Western Conference, which is comprised of the Avalanche, the Blues, the Golden Knights, the Coyotes, the Wild, the Ducks, the Sharks, and the Kings. So it's basically the Pacific Division with a couple of Central teams thrown in there. So my prediction for the West was the playoff teams in this order was going to be Colorado, St. Louis, Vegas, and the Coyotes, with the Wild, Ducks, Sharks, and Kings all on the outside. How do you guys feel about this division? I feel, in my opinion, I think this is the weakest division. I think this is probably the easiest one to call, specifically the top 3 teams. But, how do you guys feel about this division? What do you guys think is going to end up happening standings-wise for these guys?
I could easily see the Wild taking out the Coyotes for the 4th spot.
Yeah, I don't feel great about the Coyotes, to be honest with you.
I mean, is there after last season, is there really any reason to feel all that great about the Coyotes? The thing is, like, Minnesota also is just kind of like they're running with isn't it Kaapo Kähkönen, that kid
I think
now
they're starting this year is going to be Kaapo Kähkönen with Alex Stalock is their partner, because they traded Devin Dubnyk to the San Jose Sharks.
Yeah, oh boy, that's yikes. Okay, so their goaltending depth's not there in Minnesota, but
it could be though. Let's not forget flashes in the pan happen.
Well, Kähkönen is a really highly touted prospect, but this is going to be his first full season in the league.
You're going to be heaping
it also
him
is a shortened season though.
Yeah, but you're going to be looking for him to there's no time to grow in a shortened season for him is kind of the issue. Like, he's got to go out there and start winning games right away. Like, he doesn't have time to adjust.
We've seen it happen a lot.
I mean, Igor Shesterkin literally came up and just destroyed Elvis.
Recent
I'm
times.
not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying it's a lot to ask for a rookie goaltender in general.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like it's going to go one of two ways, right? Either they're going to come out of the gate hot, and because of the shortened season, they're not going to have time to cool off, or they're going to come out of the gate flat, and because it's a shortened season, they're not going to have time to readjust and make that late season push. Because, I mean, essentially, by the time you're a month or two into the season, you're halfway through the season already.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's fair to say the California teams are going to finish the bottom 3 in this division. They're just clearly by far the worst teams here.
Let's tell that to the Sharks.
Unless the Sharks somehow magically, I don't
no.
I mean, when you have Martin Jones and Devin Dubnyk in that, and you lose Joe Thornton and Patrick Marleau,
the only one of those teams I could see making any kind of run is if John Gibson stays healthy and plays to the level that he can. And even then, that defense is still, outside of Cam Fowler and Hampus Lindholm, incredibly questionable. And they also can't score goals.
But I mean, they have some young pieces, too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Drew Doughty. Yeah, Drew Doughty's great.
I mean, Anaheim does have some interesting young players, like Sam Steele, Troy Terry, Cat Comtois has been in the lineup the last couple of years. So, I mean, they could, just based on the strength of youth, catching fire, get in there, because those guys, like you said, the shortened season and younger players are going to have probably the upper hand here because they don't have any lag time. They just can hit go and just go.
Well, I think that's an important thing to know. When I was making these predictions, you're going to notice that I typically put teams that are more offensive a little bit higher in my rankings, and I think that's because specifically in a shortened season, generally speaking, the regular season favors offensive teams anyway. It's really the postseason where the defensive teams that come in, your 3rd, 4th seeds usually shine. And specifically in a shortened season, if your offense catches fire, you could easily ride that into the playoffs.
Realistically, you need a top 6 to stay hot for about 2 months, and that's it, instead of 6.
Well, think about like if the Islanders pulled off the same kind of start they did last year, where they went 11, 12 game point streak. I mean, that can basically almost guarantee you a playoff spot right there.
How do you say that and then put the Oilers at the second?
Well, we're gonna
bottom
get to
of
that.
division?
We're gonna get to that.
Because I'm just saying, everything you just said explains the Oilers.
All right, you want to get to it? You want to have this fight?
No,
I want to. I mean, I don't really think there's really all that. Like, you could really say the Avs, Blues, and Knights are just 1, 2, 3, right? Like, they're pretty much the same. Like, regular season echelon of teams. Postseason's another question.
The only thing with the Blues is they're going to be without Tarasenko for most of the year. But
Right.
But Hoffman is a nice little complementary piece.
He's Tarasenko light. I mean, he'll still score you
25.
he might shine in that system.
He's going to get you 20, 25 goals.
I mean, he's just a replacement for the 1T on the power play. He's gonna get you through 54 games. He'll probably pick you up 10 power play goals.
And the big thing is when Tarasenko does come back, which will probably be at the very end of the season, that's a very potent,
right.
forward core going into the playoffs. Because you have 2 guys now that can rip it, so...
And to your point, Tim, I could easily see the Wild taking out the Coyotes and stripping them of their playoff spot, because I'm not really super thrilled about... Really, between teams 4 to 8, I'm not thrilled about any of these teams. I don't think any of them have a chance at a Stanley Cup. Really, whatever team comes in fourth is just going to be... the tune-up series for whatever team comes in first.
It's not really the team that gets to get bashed by the team in the first seed.
If we get to watch Coyotes Avalanche again this year, and it's again just Darcy Kemper and Antti Ranta trying to stop 45 shots through regulation,
You see, you say that, but I could easily see the Coyotes or the Wild taking... I don't think that anyone could take out the Avalanche just because of how offensive heavy they are, that 4th seed. But I could easily see someone like the Blues, who are a little more defensive heavy, maybe,
Well, yeah, I mean...
getting a quick, turnaround from an Arizona Coyotes team or a Minnesota Wild team that got hot.
I mean, I agree with you to an extent. I could see, if they had a team like Vancouver in this division, right, and that was taking that 4 spot, a young upstart team, I could definitely say, they could take the Blues out, because, you saw last year what a young upstart team did to a team that has offensive deficiencies like the Blues do. But, I just don't think the Coyotes have, the caliber of talent, especially when...
Well, I think the Wild would do it. I don't see the Coyotes doing it.
The Wild's tops... I mean... If Kaprizov comes over,
he's playing this year, yeah.
Yeah, so Kaprizov. You have Kevin Fiala.
They traded away Luke Cunnin.
They did trade away Luke Cunnin.
He's a Nashville Predator now.
Yeah, that's.
Let me give you the biggest reason why I don't. The biggest reason why I think that those teams don't have as much of a chance as the Canucks did is because the one thing that the Canucks did is really expose how slow the Blues were. I mean, think about how many breakaways, odd man run. I mean, Brock Besser and Bo Horvat in Game 3 had 3 2-on-1s in a period. They really exposed them with the stretch pass and the speed of that young core. And the Coyotes and the Wild just aren't that fast. If the Wild want a chance, they're gonna have to play in the trenches with the Blues, and I don't think they can do that. And also, we saw that Jordan Binnington is in fact mortal last year, and gods can bleed. But I still have a hard time thinking that Alex Stalock is gonna outplay Jordan Binnington in a 7-game series. And there's no back. You can't go to Jake Allen this year. Your backup is, I think, Ville Husso.
Yeah, it is Ville Husso.
You don't have the safety net anymore. It's Binnington or nothing this year,
Yeah. No,
I'm not saying it can't happen, because obviously it's the NHL. Anything can happen, and that's the beauty of it. But if I had to bet on it, I would strongly bet against any of those 2 teams taking out St. Louis Blues. And honestly, I'm just really not impressed with this division at all. I mean, the only team that I'm really interested in following this year is the Avs and the Knights, and I'm only interested in following the Knights because I want to see what kind of circus is going to happen around this team with Fleury and Leonard.
Let's see if Fleury's agent decides to try to destroy his career again.
Yeah, he's like, "Hey Fleury, you're doing good in Vegas. I'm just gonna kneecap you real quick." And Fleury's probably like, "Bro, are you serious?"
All right, great. See, the other division that I'm not thrilled with, to be honest with you, is the North, the Canadian division. It's cool and all, but oh my god, if this division isn't the biggest crapshoot I've ever seen, The only team I can tell you for sure that is not going to make the playoffs is the Ottawa Senators, and that's only just because of the format.
See, here's the thing with this division. I think you have two teams that are on a different level. And I think the two teams that are on a different level, regular season-wise, is the Toronto Maple Leafs because, again, regular season offensive firepower, a full season under Sheldon Keefe, and the Calgary Flames because I think that they plugged a lot of the holes in this lineup that got exposed by the Dallas Stars last year. And then you have the Canucks, the Jets, the Canadiens, and the Oilers, who really flip a coin between those teams who's going to take the last two spots. I had such a hard time picking the last two spots in this division, especially when a lot of these the analysts, they did a lot of these season predictions. A lot of these guys had Montreal near the top of the division, and they did Cap Friendly did their season simulation, or it might have been Statcast, and the Canadiens won this division in their simulation, over 1,000 simulations. They won the division more often than they lost. And to be fair, with that defense, which is honestly one of the better defensive cores in the league now, I mean, Shea Weber, Jeff Petrie,
Brett Kulak, Ben
Sherratt, and then Joel Edmondson. That defense with Carey Price, I mean, we saw what Carey Price did in the playoffs last year.
And they did add Tyler Toffoli, which is, a
but
shooter.
But my question is, can they score goals? And the reason that I put them outside of the playoffs, so for the record, my top four is the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Flames, the Canucks, and the Jets, with the Canadiens just missing, and the Oilers and the Senators. I just don't think... I see a lot of people giving a lot of credit to the Montreal Canadiens for the defense, which is great. I think they have a stacked defense. I think Carey Price is still an elite goalie. But you have Tyler Toffoli, who we keep saying he's a 20-goal scorer, but when is he going to hit 20 goals again? We have guys like Nick Suzuki who can score 20 goals. Kotkaniemi can score 20 goals. Gallagher can score 30 goals. But can, are they going to turn it into he did? And I just don't think so. This offense is just anemic. And I hate to say it, even Jonathan Drouin, he's hit 20 goals once. And like he can't stay healthy. And, last year the Canadiens fans were treating him like this great hero when he had a really good start, but consistently through his career he has severely underperformed those expectations. He's kind of like the Taylor Hall situation where for some reason we think, oh, when he's healthy he's going to score 30, but when he was healthy he wasn't scoring 30.
Well, yeah, it's the myth. He's like you said, Taylor Hall, the one guy who's like third overall draft pick status just never wore off, and people are still like, he's gonna do it one day. It's like he's 24, 25 years old and he hasn't done it yet. Like,
he scored 39 goals once.
How long are we gonna wait?
They want a Joe Pavelski career.
Yeah, that's essentially it. But it's like, how long are you gonna wait around for Jonathan Drouin to put it all together?
30 years old, he's just gonna figure it out for some reason.
I mean, you can have late career renaissances, but the fact of the matter is you can't bank on that happening. You can bank on players having a breakout season based on previous performances. Like, if you wanted to argue, hey, I think that Anthony Beauvillier is going to have a breakout season, you can look at his playoff run and be like, yeah, okay, I see where this is coming from. But if you're going to tell me Jonathan Drouin's going to score 30 goals, where's the data to back this up?
What did he do?
Besides have a somewhat hot start where I think he scored 7 through his first 20 and then blew out or Alex Ovechkin ended his season, which I don't know why the NHL keeps playing that hit like it's a great hit, like you hit him in the head, but that's a whole other argument for a different day.
Well, it's because it's Alex Ovechkin, and they can't bear to come to the thought that Ovechkin might actually hit guys high all the time.
Well, yeah, I mean, if that was Luca Spiza, he would have caught a 10-game ban for that, but,
Bro, if it was anybody else, literally anybody else, it would have been that's 15 easy.
Okay, so on the Oilers.
How do you take them from top team to...
Because who is in net for them?
It doesn't fucking matter. They're just going to score.
Matter. Did you see what happened in the Chicago Blackhawks series?
Bro, playoffs. Who cares?
I care.
This is regular season. I don't. They're just going to score. Okay,
but you're also in a division with the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Canucks, and the Jets, who have, if not a better, just as good top six as you do. Because their top sixes are more well-rounded
the Maple Leafs have arguably a worser defense.
Okay.
Better goaltending though.
But Frederick
That's
Anderson's one of
fair.
the best goaltenders in the
No,
league.
that's 100% fair. But I'm just saying, like, the Maple Leafs could easily shit the bed and just lose to them every night of the week.
Here's a good thought experiment. Name guys in their top 6 who aren't Leon Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, or Connor McDavid.
You see, like, it just doesn't matter though. Like, that's the whole point.
But if you're gonna take a game of like the Leafs versus the Jets, right? And Connor McDavid goes out and he's gonna put up points because he's Connor McDavid, he's the best player in the league. He goes out and puts up 2 goals. Leon Draisaitl puts in a goal. Okay, are you gonna tell me that a top 6 consisting of Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, John Tavares, unfortunately for some reason Joe Thornton and Zach Hyman can't put up 3 goals between the 6 of them?
For some reason they couldn't do it last season with the other guys.
I mean, they actually scored. They had
I know.
They had a hard time keeping the puck out
Yeah,
of
no,
their net.
but no, that's actually more my point. My
mean,
point really
listen,
is just
I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the Oilers couldn't easily probably win this division.
I think you have the Jets a little high, honestly.
They were, to me, a question mark because I was sitting there and I was thinking, like, listen, is Connor Hellebuyck going to do what he did last year again? And I don't think he's going to have another Vezina-type season. But let's not discredit the fact that they plugged the only major hole in their offensive lineup in a second-line center. And if Patrick Laine changes his attitude and gets his head out of his own ass and decides to actually play hockey, his connection with Paul Stastny was...
Fortnite.
Well, not even that. It's just that he doesn't want to be there anymore.
Yeah.
But when he played with Paul Stastny, that's when Laine had his best seasons, was when Paul Stastny was a center.
I'm just really confused what fucking jackass looked at these divisions on paper and said, these look pretty good.
It's just for the travel.
I understand, but...
Well, I mean, the Canadian thing is just because, like, literally no teams can cross the border. Like, the Canadian border's closed.
yeah.
So, like, all the players that left that are playing on American teams, I think, have been here since, like, September at this point because the Canadian border's been closed.
Yeah, no, okay. So, I mean, like, it all makes sense. It's just, like...
The one thing I don't understand is why they moved, like, the Florida teams into the Central because it puts, like, such a heavier burden of travel on them because they have to travel. Like, they're traveling to Nashville and
Dallas,
Chicago, Detroit. Like, you can't tell me that their travel costs wouldn't have been less if they were, traveling up to New York.
Carolina, like...
Not even that. Like, balance out the divisions a little bit.
Well,
Throw the Panthers in that division.
Well, yeah, the East Division is stacked, and that's...
This is the issue. Like, the East and the
just a
North are
mess.
just so stacked, and then the other two...
I mean, the
It's
Central's
like there's
good.
just top four, bottom 4. No question.
The Central's good. I could easily see the Panthers knocking the Blue Jackets out of that last spot.
Okay.
Especially if Bobrovsky plays well.
You're right. So I do agree the fourth... No, I actually agree that the 4th spot in that division is up for grabs, but the other 3 are just out of question.
I think if anybody's going to... Well, okay, before we go into the Central, is there anything else you want to say about the North? I mean, I know you disagree with me about the Oilers. And to be fair, like I said, honestly,
I don't even really disagree with
spots 3 to 6 in that division, you can mishmash and pick whoever you want. I think those teams are fairly similar in terms of the fact that they have one thing they do really well, like the Jets score really well, and they have really good goaltending, but they can't defend. The Canadians can defend really well and have really good goaltending.
What's to say, though,
but
that
they can't
Johnny
score.
Gaudreau doesn't shit his pants again on the bench and just not play this season?
Well, but that's the thing. They still have Matthew Tkachuk, who had 70-something points last year.
The reason that I'm so high on the Flames this year is because they plugged the hole in net. They have Jacob Markstrom and David Riddick now. And then I think a really under-the-radar signing from them is Chris Tanev, because we saw last year that Giordano took a step back. The minutes were clearly wearing on him. He was tired. He wasn't jumping up into play as much. But you add a guy like Chris Tanev, who can take the top-line penalty kill. He can take your matchup type guy. You can be like, oh, hey, who's out on the ice? Oh, Artemi Panarin? Well, I mean, in the playoff play. Oh, who's out on the ice? Oh, Mitch Marner? All right, Chris Tanev, you're on Mitch Marner. You know, he's that type of matchup guy who can play hard in the corners, take those puck battles away from Giordano, and free him up to do his thing, which is play offense. And then I'm taking a gamble on the fact that the offense is going to reach those heights that it was 2 years ago. I don't think Gaudreau's going to come out and put up 70 points in 56 games, but I don't think he's going to be as bad as he was last year. And they came out The Flames came out last year. They played a hard series against the Winnipeg Jets. And then they played a 7-game series against the team that eventually went to the Stanley Cup Finals. A series that they argued probably should have won. The only reason they lost is because they choked away that Game 6.
I think I have Vancouver over Calgary.
And I wouldn't really argue with that too much, to be honest with you. Just
because of those holes. There are a lot of coulds in Calgary. A lot of high percentage coulds, like a 70% chance, Like Johnny Gaudreau is like a 70% chance that he does what he does, or that he does and he plays this season. But there's 30% chance that he decides to shit his pants on the bench again and just. Meh.
Well, the other thing about Calgary is I really liked what their depth did in the playoffs. Like Andrew Mangiapane had a really good playoff run. Dylan Dubé had a really good playoff run for them. He's probably going to be playing with them full time this year.
I think the playoffs were a hard thing to gauge, though.
I think, you can say that, and I wouldn't disagree necessarily, but to me there is a certain pattern of, okay, the players that adjusted to the new normal were really the ones that came out and were flying. You saw guys like Dylan Dubé and Andrew Mangiapane who were like, oh, okay, we have an opportunity here and we're going to run with it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I think Seth Jones is a prime example of that playoffs. I think he solidified himself as a easy top 10 defenseman in the league after we saw what he did.
That's not even a question.
And before that, I think you could have made the argument. You could have had some questions. You could have maybe put some guys over him. I think after that, though, there was no question. He was just top 10. After you play 60 minutes in a night.
What? Yeah, you go toe-to-toe with the guys like Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov for 60 minutes.
And you're shutting them down all night for 60 minutes, literally.
Well, yeah. So is there anything else you want to say about the North Division?
I'd like to say that Timothy Stützle, please, if you're listening to this, I need you for my fantasy team to really blow up the season. Do well in Ottawa. Thank you very much.
I'm going to be watching a lot of Senators games. I'm really excited to see this team play. If you get to tell me that I get to put on the TV and watch Brady Tkachuk, Timothy Stützle, Thomas Chabot, and an actual competent goaltender, so it's not 6-0 by the end of the second period. And Evgeny Dadonov on the power play. I'm excited to watch this team.
If I just didn't have such a deep-rooted hate for the Senators, I would love to watch them. But just their logo alone just makes my blood boil.
Well, you could ask Steve. I hated the Senators for years. I wanted nothing to do with them. I hadn't intentionally watched the Senators game. The last time I intentionally watched the Senators game was the last time they made the playoffs. And that's only because I was watching playoff hockey. Since then, I've avoided them like the plague. But I'm actually really excited to watch this young team this year. They have a lot of really nice pieces that I think they're going to make for some competitive games. If they, honestly, if they were in that Western Division, they might even push for a playoff spot. Just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
That division is just so garbage. At least it wouldn't be in the bottom. They're better than all those California teams.
They're probably better than Minnesota, too.
So we'll go to the Central, and we'll leave the East for the last, because I think that's clearly the best division out of all of these. So the Central Division is comprised of, and this is the order in which I put the teams, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Carolina Hurricanes, Dallas Stars, Columbus Blue Jackets, so those are my 4 playoff teams, followed by the Florida Panthers, Nashville Predators, the Chicago Blackhawks, and the unfortunate Detroit Red Wings, who get to play the Tampa Bay Lightning 8 million times.
I think it's 8 or 9 times?
Rip my wings, bro.
I think this is another kind of unbalanced division. I think you have 2 teams, in my opinion, the Lightning and the Hurricanes, who are, clearly cup contending teams. And then, I love my Dallas Stars. I picked them for the win this cup last year.
You're not even going to include them in that top 2 thing. I think the 3 of them are just...
Their offense is just so anemic, though, is the thing. They had some coming out parties. They had Yoel Kiviranta, who had a nice coming out party. Rupe Hintz had a nice coming out party. But I love Jamie Benn. I love Tyler Seguin. But they don't... the Dallas Stars, for the last 2 seasons, have also been plagued by horribly slow starts. If you remember last season, they were, at the bottom of the league come the end of November, and then they turned it on and made the playoffs. And they did the same thing 2 years ago. And they don't have that kind of room this year. If you come out flat for 20 games, that's half your season.
Yeah, you're done.
And the offense in Dallas has the potential. Again, Jamie Benn probably could score 30 goals every single season. I mean, he brings other things to the table, but Tyler Seguin could score 30 goals. But then the question is, are they going to do it again?
The real question is how quickly is Jamie Benn going to keep regressing at this point? Because his game is kind of falling apart like year by year at this point. And it's just the nature of getting older and playing like a physical game for so many years.
And obviously the defense in Dallas is still stacked. I mean, you can argue as them as the top defense in the league. And, you know, the goaltending is still really good, you know, if Ben Bishop can stay healthy. But if not, you still have Anton Hudobin. And if Ben Bishop's not healthy, then your backup then becomes Jake Ottinger, who, he only got the one game in the playoffs last year, but he looked good doing it. And he's reportedly been ready to go for the last couple of seasons. He's just been log-jammed. So, you know, I do think the Dallas Stars are kind of in that, you know, I consider the Lightning and the Hurricanes, the Lightning are bona fide Stanley Cup contender. The Hurricanes are borderline Stanley Cup contenders because I still don't like the goaltending. The Dallas Stars are a playoff team that if they get hot, they could win it. And then you have the Jackets, who I think are a playoff team. And then I've seen a lot of guys giving a lot of credit to the Predators, and I don't see where this is coming from. I mean, I don't think Pekka Rinne and USA Saros are going to have the same type of terrible season as they had last year. And they arguably should have won that series against the Arizona Coyotes because they outplayed them games 2 through 4. But by the same token, again, it's the same question we've always had with them, which is where are the goals coming from? You know, Victor Arvidsson was supposed to be a 40-goal scorer, and since then he's put up like 20. And they add Luke Cunnin, which is a nice addition, but is he the solution to your issues?
I mean, it's really a question of is Matt Duchene going to live up to the contract he got?
You know, Philip Forsberg's going to get his points. You know, he's going to put up like 70, 80 points on the season between goals and assists. Just because the team, obviously, he's the only one scoring otherwise.
The other big question we have to consider is, and it's a question for you specifically, Tim, because I think you have him on your fantasy team, is they relied a lot on Roman Josi last year. And he's a fantastic defenseman. Don't get me wrong. But can he put up that many points again? Because he can put up easily like 40 to 50 points, but is he going to hit like 60 again is the question.
Honestly, yeah, I think he will. Just because he needs to.
Because nobody else can score.
Exactly. If he's not going to, the team will just... I think he's going to step up because that's just the type of player that he is. Like, he's proven season in and season out that he's just going to get points no matter what. When the team did good, he had points. When the team did bad, he had points. I don't know what to say.
Well, I mean, it's not... I don't think it's really a question of is he going to get points. It's is he going to get enough points to float the offense is the question. Because that's kind of really what happened last year. I think he was like by far and away their best point producer.
Well, I think the team in theory shouldn't have to float an offense. They have Saros and Pekka Rinne, who were supposed to be these high-end goaltenders, supposed to be in very heavy air quotes. But
I know how much you love Pekka Rinne.
Yeah, Pekka Rinne can really, like... I'll take a goalie stick and shove it. Yeah. So, I think that I could easily see them doing it. I don't know.
Well, okay, so I want to go to you as well because there's another team in the mix that you were talking about, which is the Florida Panthers.
Wait, can we go back for a second?
Yeah.
I just don't see how you say the Dallas... I think the Dallas Stars in the playoffs really did prove, though, that they can score points. Easily. Throughout the whole playoffs, they putting up...
They proved two things to me, which is, one, they can hang with the best teams in the league. But also, two, when the best teams in the league realize their strategy... the coaching staff doesn't have an answer, and they're bringing back the same coaching staff. I mean, you remember watching the series against the Calgary Flames and then the series against Tampa Bay Lightning. When they realize like every single play is going back to Heiskanen, Lindell, or Klingberg on the point, they just lock down the points. I mean, and then you were forcing Jamie Benn to play down low, which he should be good at in theory, but that offense for some reason just kept ramming their head against the brick wall and kept trying to force the play to the points.
Even against the Lightning, though, the scores were 4-1, 2-3, 2-5, 4-5, 3-2, and 0-2. Like, they were putting up points every game. I don't really think points are the issue. I think the issue is just the cohesion of the team. You just don't have everyone playing together at the same time. Like, I feel like Jamie Benn just, if the team is doing well, he chills back. when the team isn't doing well, Captain Jamie steps up. But it's like, yo, Jamie, we needed you to do this every time.
Well, I think one of the other reasons why I'm not thrilled with the Dallas Stars I like the roster. I'm not like over the moon about it. But the other thing I don't like about the team coming in, and I hate to say this because he's a good guy, he's one of the better, people in hockey, but Bob Boughner has not proven to me that he can adjust an offense on the fly and make it work. Because he didn't throughout the entire Calgary series. We were sitting in watching, and we were just like, "Oh wow!" Like every single play is going to the point, and the pucks aren't getting to the net, and they almost lost the series because of it, because they just refused to change the offense.
Well, they didn't have any other options. It was like, I guess, the way they were looking at it.
But I mean, it's like you do have options. It's just for some reason, I just don't think that the coaching staff is able to make that adjustment. And there's other coaches that are better at making that adjustment. I mean, John Cooper basically tanked the first quarter of the season last year, and everyone was like, what's happening to the Lightning? It's like they're learning how to play defense. That's what's happening. And then they won a Stanley Cup. And, you have other coaches like John Tortorella who, like, at this point, I've learned, don't bet against John Tortorella. Like,
never bet against John Tortorella.
It's a bad move.
To bet against Torts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guy, he's really a cocksucker in that he'll make you eat your words.
And then that's one of the reasons.
Because we're going to keep that one in the locker room, boys.
That's one of the reasons why I put them at number 4 is just because, like, I really can't bet against John Tortorella at this point. Like, he can outcoach any coach in the league if he really wanted to.
He might be the best coach in the league.
I think you can really make an argument for Trotz and Tortorella as like a clear-cut 1 and 2.
I think Torts is just the best because he's doing it with less talent.
Well,
in and out every season. Every season he's doing it.
He also did it with a team that like a third of the team was on the injured reserve list at one point last year.
That's what I'm saying. Like, the talent pool just wasn't there.
So real quick, just talking about the Florida Panthers. Well, like, what are you seeing in them this year?
Grigory Denisenko is coming over, so I mean that could be a big boost. Owen Tippett's looking to get a bigger role, so I think maybe their young guys might give them a little bit of a boost. They got rid of Mike Matheson's contract, which is nice.
Shout out to Jim Rutherford.
Sergei Bobrovsky should bounce back. I mean, realistically, there's no reason he should look as bad as he did last year again. So, I mean, I don't disagree that Columbus could just take the spot, but I could also see Florida giving them like a run for it down the stretch. But then Bobrovsky starts the season on the IR, so, you know, you got Montembeault and I don't even know.
I don't remember who they brought up. I don't think they brought up Spencer Knight. I think he might be on the taxi squad. I don't know. I'd have to look at the roster, but
yeah, I don't know.
I just wasn't thrilled with their offseason. I mean, they got rid of the Matheson contract, which is fine, but when you look at the cumulative of the team from last year versus the team from this year, I mean, you're minus Vincent Trocheck, you're minus Mike Hoffman, you're minus Evgeny Dadonov, and at the start of the season, you're minus Sergei Bobrovsky. And
how long is Bob out for?
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm disappointed because I agree with you. I think that he was poised for a bounce back, especially after his performance in the playoffs. I mean, he really looked like he was another guy.
I mean, he looked like Sergei Bobrovsky again.
Yeah, it was just the team couldn't defend. Like,
yeah, I mean, he looked good, though.
So that's interesting for the Central Division. And then we'll cut on over to the last division, the East Division here with the Flyers. And again, this is in my order. Flyers, Rangers, Islanders, Capitals, Penguins, Bruins, Sabres, and the New Jersey Devils.
So you think the Bruins are going to be out, huh? Well, I mean, I can understand why. Right, like they lose Chara, they lose Krug, that goaltending is kind of eh. But the big thing is, like, your top line, 2/3 of it is on the injured reserve for 3 months.
And that's the biggest issue, I think. I think this team can get by with the defense they have. It's kind of weak, which is crazy to say because that's, like, the first time we can say that about a Boston Bruins defense since, 2009? That they have a weak defense. But, I mean, outside of Charlie McAvoy, like, your next best option is Matt Grzelcyk. And, I mean, he's not bad, but, like, when you compare what they had last year. But it's really the issue of Pasternak and Marchand are missing, at minimum, if they come back early, a month, and it's projected to be 2 to 3. and that's literally like half to 3/4 of your season without 2/3 of your top line. And they're just an unfortunate victim of the fact that the season is so short.
I mean, yeah, your two best players are spending majority of the season on the injured reserve. I mean, ask the Tampa Bay Lightning, they lost Nikita Kucherov for the entire season.
Yeah.
So
that's definitely an owie.
And oof, ouchie.
Oof, ouch, owie, my bones. It was really hard for me personally to pick. I think, I don't think it's crazy to say that the Flyers are far and away the best team in this division.
I'd
No,
agree.
you're wrong. You're completely wrong.
No, I'd be tempted to agree, honestly.
Yeah, no, they definitely are.
I just think that, like, to me, they're entering their Stanley Cup contention window. Like last year, yes, they lost to the Islanders, but they came back from 3-1 down to force a Game 7 with 2 back-to-back overtime wins, and like that proves to me that this young team is entering that next stage.
Well, they really had something to prove is kind of the thing. Like, so I don't know. I also just think that defense is so stacked. It's probably the strongest in the league if we're being honest. And they're playing in front of Carter Hart, so
like the best goalie under 26 potentially in the entire league.
Was he 22 now?
Yeah. And I just think that they're just, to me, there's no significant hole on this roster.
So much depth. Look just down at their centers.
I would like a better second line center than Kevin Hayes, but he's good enough to get it done.
I mean, Nolan Patrick might, if he actually plays, because who knows?
His concussion issues, right? I think Kevin Hayes to me has always been a guy that I think, he can get it done in the middle. I would like to see him move to wing, because when they freed him up against the Islanders, that's when he started putting up points, because he had no points through the first 2 games, and then they said, listen, all right, don't worry about the matchup type center, like go out and put up points, and he put up like 4 points in 3 games. There's just no holes on this team. They're just a complete up and down roster.
Kevin Hayes, he's definitely not going to start the second line center this season.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Claude Giroux is your first line center, or Sean
No,
Couturier.
Yeah, Couturier.
Giroux's on the wing.
on the wing. So
I guess if he's playing wing.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Giroux played wing with, it was Coots,
He did-
Giroux, and Konechny was the line last year.
I forgot that he was on wing
Because
last
they bumped
season.
Voracek down to the second line, and then eventually to the third line. He needs to get his act together, but
Or maybe we just need to stop pretending it's 2013. Like, I mean, we keep expecting this thing out of Voracek, and it's like, yeah, when was the last time he did anything?
I think really, in my opinion, again, this is another division where teams 2 through 6, so the Rangers, Islanders, Capitals, Penguins, Bruins, it was really hard for me to pick between those teams, because I do expect the Islanders to take a step back this year. They're missing a little bit of, Noah Dobson plays exactly the same way as Devon Tays does. It's just that Tays had a couple of years to really hone that in, and they're going to ask a lot of Dobson this year, because he's probably going to play second-line power play, maybe even first-line power play with Ryan Pollock. Obviously, we're going to be missing Johnny Boychuk this year. We're asking a lot of a young defenseman who I think can get it done, but it's hard. I mean, he's 19 years old. He's playing under Barry Trotz.
Yeah.
And I think, obviously Sorokin, from everything that's been said in training camp, his stats in the KHL last year, he's ready to go. I'm not really concerned about the goaltending. It's just there's always that coin flip with them, which is if they get off to a slow start, then they're kind of screwed, and they've been notoriously slow. Last year being the exception, but I'm expecting big things out of the Rangers this year. I'm curious what you guys are expecting out of the club this season after what I would argue is a disappointing end to last year's season.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see them making the playoffs just as easily as I could see them just missing out. I mean, like you said, this division's tough. I mean,
It's stacked.
Pittsburgh, Boston, even Buffalo might make an honest run at it. I mean, their
The only
goaltending's
team
not
I would
great.
consider bad is New Jersey.
And that's just because they are bad. Corey Crawford literally retired before playing a game. He saw it and was like, you know what? Never mind, guys.
The Rangers just have so many ifs. They have so many cans. There's just so much young talent and new talent to the team that you really don't know who's going to play well.
I mean, I know that the projections for Laugh coming in his first year, they're expecting big things out of him. They're expecting Capo Caco to take a big step forward after his playoff performance last year, where, I mean, he didn't put up that many points, but like he just looked like a brand new guy. Like, you couldn't, if you would have told me that was a different player, I would have believed you.
Yeah.
Obviously, the goaltending, I think, freeing up Georgiev and Shesterkin from Lundqvist is going to help the both of them. They're going to get more reps. They're going to get more playing time. They haven't committed to a game one starter, so we'll see. That's going to be interesting who's going to start the season. But, the goaltending is not a concern for me. The offense is not a concern for me. It's just a question of, again, you're not getting a lot of defense out of your forwards, and you're not getting a lot of defense out of your defense.
And they have Trouba starting on the third line in camp. So I don't even know what to say, really.
They moved him up. He's
You
playing
added
with
Jack
Keandre
Johnson,
Miller now.
but like that's kind of a subtraction, to be honest with you.
Keandre Miller also made the team out of camp, which is nice. So
That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of young talent, and even Jack Johnson's like, is he going to do it? Is he going to mesh?
He had a horrible season last year.
Exactly. So,
His advanced stats, which I know I'm not a huge fan of, but like his advanced stats were garbage.
and I think we're all pretty confident that Mika and Panarin, even if they don't put up the same points, will put up high-end points for the season no matter what. Like, it's just a kind of fair projection. But the rest of the team's kind of on a coin flip, I guess you could say.
well, it's like, is Philip Hito going to take that next step and be ready? Is he finally going to develop into the number 2 center? Is Ryan Strome going to find the chemistry with Panarin again, or is he going to just be another flash in the pan?
Is Tony going to repeat his season from last?
Or is he going to be too busy worried about what social media he's going to be on because he left Twitter?
Is Adam Fox going to be? Is he going to be Adam Fox again, or was that just a fluke?
And I hate to bring this up because I don't think it's going to happen, but there's also the question, and because, I mean, at this point, Georgiev's a known quantity, but the other question is, can Shesterkin do what he did again last year? And I think the answer is yes, but we have to acknowledge that it is a question mark.
I think that even if he doesn't, though, Georgiev is a great starter either way. I think he could easily be a starter.
And in my opinion, that's why I was telling you guys last year when it didn't look like they were going to be able to even financially afford to buy out, or in terms of cap compliance, be able to buy out Henrik Lundqvist. Now I was saying that Georgiev really should be starting at some point somewhere. Like, he's a guy that can start you 55 games easily.
The Rangers have had this problem for the past 10 years. They always get 2 good goalies at the same time, but they always had Hank. So it was like, shit, we have 2 great backups and Hank. Which one goes?
I mean, we went from Cam Talbot to Antti Ranta to who else? It was ridiculous.
I think one of the things the Rangers have going for them this year is that they have an excess on the wings. Because if your top 6 is Mika, they're probably Mika, Kreider, and Buchnevich. And then your second line would be Strome, Panarin, and Kakko. I mean, that means Laff is playing on the third line.
Yeah, he's playing with Hedel and Gauthier.
Which means, but that's the thing is, say for example, Booch starts to struggle. You have that flexibility to move him down, move Laff into the top 6. You can shuffle the line. So it's like, if one of those ifs that you pointed out turns into a no, say, Booch comes out of the gate flat, you're like, all right, look, we'll give Laff a shot in the top 6. It's not like we don't have options.
Yeah, but the Rangers' bottom 2 lines aren't exactly that strong on the top end or on the forward end.
No, but
so
you have a couple of guys who you can flip.
But to what you're saying, if you flip them around, you're just going to be struggling on other lines then probably. That's the issue is the Rangers have depth, but it's this can be depth. It's not defined depth yet. It's kind of like the Hurricanes a few years ago.
What do we think about the Penguins and the Capitals this year? Because they're in remarkably similar spots. Both coming into the years with relatively unproven goaltenders. Both look like they still have hopes of competing, but they didn't really do anything.
I think the Penguins are done, man. They got, I don't know, the way they got smashed by the Canadians last year was pretty bad.
Well, they traded away Patrick Hornquist, but they acquired Nick Bjugstad,
and
Mike Matheson, the worst contract in the league, and I feel confident saying that.
As long as Sid is alive, they'll have a chance for a 4th spot.
Absolutely. If they made it, I wouldn't be surprised.
But you see, the Penguins are so hard to tell because Crosby literally will just take these random nobodies on his line and then just break them out into this ridiculous season. Like we saw, not that it was ridiculous when he did it with him, but like Chris Kunitz literally blew up and had like a 70, 80 point season
because he was playing with Sidney Crosby.
Because he was playing with Crosby. Then Gensel came up and literally destroyed the league.
Well,
wrecked in the playoffs. Like he just takes these random little kids, and all right, let's rephrase that. He takes these random ass scrubs from the NHL, like just random spots on the team. And he's just like, "Yo, let's do this, kid." And he just like rubs his nose a little bit, says, "Hey, you smell that, kid? That's the French."
I think, one of the things that the Penguins have going for them this year is obviously Gensel's starting the season healthy, which is good. But one of the things that I took into account is the depth organizationally, because the taxi squad is going to come into play, because unfortunately the reality is it's not an if, it's a when your players either get hurt or, again, unfortunately, when somebody gets sick, contracts COVID-19, your organizational depth is really going to be stretched. And the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins have had this rep for the last couple of years. To your point, Tim, where players come out of Wilkes-Barre Scranton and jump onto the Penguins and there's no adjustment period. Whatever systems they have in Pittsburgh get implemented down in the AHL, like basically play for play. And I think that's a strength of the Penguins. But my question is, can that, if Tristan Jarry falters, there's no safety net. They didn't go after a guy like Thomas Greiss or, Henrik Lundqvist. Obviously, it didn't work out. But they didn't go after a guy like him or a guy like Craig Anderson. Like, they don't have a safety net. Your backup is Casey DeSmith. So if he struggles, then you don't have a safety net. And my bigger question is, I don't really like the defense in Pittsburgh anymore. I mean,
the only real bright spot is John Marino.
I mean, Chris Letang is still serviceable. Justin Schultz had an absolutely terrible last year. And I mean, who else are we even talking about? Like Chad Ruedel. Like, I don't like that defense, and especially I don't like that defense. Well, Brian Dumoulin's a good one, yeah, but I don't like that defense in front of a young goaltender, specifically.
I also am just not thrilled with like their depth on like the wings or outside of honestly pretty much anything that isn't their centers.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
yo. Why did they do my man Jaden Schwartz like that? Look at that picture, bro.
Oh, is that on Fantrax?
Oh my god. Who did his hair? Like, they couldn't.
Yeah, that's brutal. Oh, you want to see a good picture?
They couldn't touch that up at all before.
Bro, they literally gave him like a slanted hairline. Like, his head is literally curved.
Jaden Schwartz picture on the NHL website. Oh my god.
Oh, maybe it's not going to show me because it's different resolution. But if you go on the Canadiens website, they did Brendan Gallagher like really dirty. But I mean, I'm just not thrilled with the Penguins this year.
I mean, that picture of Brendan Gallagher's pretty bad, bro. He's like,
could they make the playoffs? Yes. Could the Islanders miss the playoffs? Yes. Could the Rangers miss the playoffs? Yes. I mean, this division is stacked. I really wish that I could give more credit to the Buffalo Sabres because, I really wish that I could say that they're going to compete this year.
If they were in their original division, I could say, yeah, okay, they could be shooting for a wild card here because the Atlantic Division itself isn't exactly all that strong with, you'd have Florida to beat up on outside of and
well,
the
Bruins
are
taking a step back. The Senators you can beat up on. The Panthers are big question marks because they lost half their team.
Yeah, so I mean, even Toronto, you probably get some wins out of because Toronto can't defend. So, but like put them in the division with you still have the declining Boston Bruins, but guess what? You have the ascendant New York Rangers and Islanders, and you have
the
Philadelphia Flyers team. Like you have the Capitals and the Penguins, who are still good teams, they're just shadows of their former selves now, which. To be fair, like they've been competitive for over a decade now, so it's to be expected. Like you said, the only really bad team here is the New Jersey Devils.
The biggest reason I'm not thrilled with the Sabres is I think that they made an important step to adjust and address the issues in their top six, and their top six is kind of stacked. I'm not even gonna front. Like a top six of Eichel, Reinhart, Hall, Stahl, Olofsson, Skinner. That's kind of stacked. But then you go to the defense where you have Ristolainen and Dahlin, Jake McCabe. Like, it's good. Nobody's going to mistake Ristolainen, Dahlin, or McCabe for James Norris Trophy winners, especially on their own end. but they're good enough to get it done. But then you look at the goaltending, and I really see them as having two backups. I mean, Linus Ullmark and Carter Hutton are both backups to me. And especially when you consider they don't really have that shutdown Victor Hedman or Adam Pelech type defenseman.
Well, aren't they waiting on that Pekka, whatever that
Pekka Luukkonen,
Yeah.
It's just I wish that the Sabres would have signed maybe one top 4 defenseman and maybe a guy like Thomas Greiss, and then I could give them a legitimate shot at making the playoffs. But I can't see it with Carter Hutton and Linus Ullmark being supported by a cast of Ristolainen, Donnelly, and McCabe, and then nobody.
No, I agree. I mean,
I could see the save. It depends though, because when you bring in more talent, a lot more guys might start to improve. You might like the team actually has a chance now. It's not just Jack Eichel in the locker room one week like, yo, we got this, boys, and then the next week being like, yo, we fucking suck. Like there's a different vibe in the air now there, if you ask me. I could easily see them coming out hot, winning a bunch of games early, trailing off, and then maybe fighting for that last playoff spot at the end of the season. But I think that they'll come out hot.
Well, to your point, the last 2 seasons, they were leading their division for the first 2 months.
That's what I'm saying. They usually come out hot, and so I think that they definitely will again, and I think that they'll come out even hotter now. But once again, I think that they'll trail off and then eventually just kind of fade out.
I want them to prove me wrong. If I could pick one team to give a playoff spot to, I would pick the Sabres because I want them to prove me wrong. I want to finally be able to cheer and say that the Sabres have done it and given Jack Eichel a chance.
Nah, fuck that, bro. New York, rep your team. Sea-Gang, Rangers.
I'm saying,
rep that blue, baby.
The Rangers and Islanders can probably make it of their own accord is the issue. Like, they don't need that much help.
I'm just saying, bro, rep that blue.
The Sabres need some help.
Sabres need all the help they can get.
But I would like to see them prove me wrong. So this is, I'm going to lay my cards on the table here, where I remember last year I said I didn't give the Canucks enough credit. This is going to be the season where I didn't give the Sabres enough credit, and I want that to happen. So go ahead, Buffalo, prove me wrong. I just don't think it's going to happen. But do you guys have any final thoughts on the regular season? Anything you want to talk about, lay on the table?
I just want to apologize to all Detroit Red Wings fans that are out there. I'm sorry you guys have to get smashed by the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Hurricanes 16 times this year.
Yo, I just want to point out that we're in the studio down here for this podcast, and Rob's really working on his blowing or some shit, bro. This kid's got like a whole ass metal piece in the corner. He's really working on this shit, bro.
Flute.
Yeah, bro, he's really on his game.
Yeah, I'm learning how to play flute, guys. Let me tell you, that's gonna be the podcast next year. We're actually turning this into a woodwind instrument podcast. Or is a flute? The flute's not woodwind.
Yeah, it is. It's a woodwind.
It's a woodwind.
It's a reed instrument. Yeah.
Yeah. So next year, this is gonna be the I don't know, fucking lighting the woodwind podcast.
Get ready for our new opening segment played by the Robert Javis Philharmonic Orchestra.
Nah, bro, he's not conducting.
Layered over myself, and I'm conducting also.
It's gonna be like that video I was showing you. It's gonna be like Robert. It's gonna be like the Lighting the Lamp podcast intro, but it's only my voice, and it's gonna be Robert like.
Nah, bro, it's gonna be even better. You know what it's gonna be like? It's gonna be like the fucking Drake video where he's like shooting, and then he's also the director, and then he's just everyone. Like they cut these different shots, and it's like, all right, what type of film you want? 35, get 35, and it's all just Rob.
You're the boss, kid. You're the boss.
Yeah, exactly. Every person is just Rob.
With different facial hair.
Yeah. So starting next week, or I mean, technically starting this week, this is the start of our weekly episode. So from here on out, again, it's going to be weekly content talking about whatever happens.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gonna be an interesting season. Some ASMR for you. We're turning this into a woodwind ASMR podcast.
Gotta get that podcast, baby. Oh yeah,
so
lighting the lamp.
Starting this week, this is our weekly content. If you have any topics you want to talk about, anything you want us to discuss, you can leave it in the comments. Hit me up on social media. We're on Twitter at lightingthelamp1, or you can give it to my personal Twitter. That's fine too. Yeah, if you have any topics you want to talk about, let us know. Other than that, we're just going to be starting a weekly content, and I'm really excited for this season. It's going to be a good one for both the NHL and for the podcast. So
Oh yeah.
I guess Isaac Hayes is here, guys.
Yeah. So I just want to thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys again next time.